Fall season of anime is here, and if summer was the season of romance, then this fall season is a season of sequels. And romance, funnily enough. Also funnily enough, I'm only watching one sequel this season, which tells me that I need to toughen up and start going through my watch list. The sequel in question is Dragon Ball Daima, but fear not, there is still plenty of great anime left to talk about. Honestly, if you're caught up with the sequels, then you don't really need me to tell you if you should watch the new Re:Zero season or Danmachi, Goddess of Fertility arc. You know what? Maybe I should start watching Danmachi. The only leftover from last season is 2.5 Dimensional Seduction, and this keeps getting better and better. The early tasteless fanservice is gone, and it's replaced by so much heart and passion around otaku culture and cosplay that it fills my body with positivity. Also, the latest episode actually had a moment talking about body positivity in a very nice way that it gets extra points just for that. Speaking of a positive surprise, let's talk about Dragon Ball Daima. Dragon Ball is back and Daima looks to be what GT tried to be. It takes place after the Buu saga, but before the Battle of the Gods. And we return back to the OG Dragon Ball action adventure with our characters transformed back into children. It's rather early to call it if it's going to be good or not, but the animation is excellent and the stakes are lower than usual, so I have high hopes for this one. I mentioned that people are falling in love in this season, so let's run down all the romance anime that I've been watching this season. Let's start with a strong one and talk about Blue Box. Perhaps the most popular Shonen Jump romance gets its long-due anime adaptation and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Our male lead Taiki falls for our female lead, the school sports star Chinatsu. And your usual anime romance plays begins to form, but they're quite well executed here. Chinatsu ends up moving to Taiki's home, and so far it has been quite enjoyable. It's not blowing my mind yet, but there's a consistent quality to it that makes it very easy to recommend. Another romance that I really like is 365 Days to the Wedding. Takuya and Rika are in peril, as in their travel agency, someone is going to be forced to live in Alaska after 365 days, and neither of them want that. No one is safe, except employees who are married, so the two devise a plan to marry in 365 days to ensure that neither of them gets sent to Alaska. They try to play it low, but it doesn't take long until the plan has unforeseen consequences, and both of them have to keep up with the facade and maybe actually fall in love for realsies. Really great time. And I'm enjoyed by the absurd scenarios those two end up in, and by how their feelings become a bit more real after each white lie. Really good and gives any romantic comedy run for its money. How I attended an all-guys mixer is also a nice surprise. Our male leads go to a mixer and find out that they're joined by 3 handsome guys. Turns out it's not guys, but 3 cross-dressing women who are just fun to watch and it's easy to be swept by them. Our male leads certainly do, and the anime builds up upon that premise, and so far it has been enjoyable. I could see it getting stale unless something changes, but for now it's an easy recommend. TsumaSho is a story about grief and how to move on after a sudden death of a loved one. So much so that I hesitate to call it a romance, even if my anime list tags it as such. The premise might sound like it's some trash, but it tries to handle its subject matter tastefully. Or I would say so, if our male lead Keisuke wasn't so eager to call that 10-year-old girl his wife to random strangers. I guess that 10-year-old girl is his reincarnated wife Takae, but still, it's always gross. This is a divisive one, even before it was released, and TsumaSho is really trying to have its cake and eat it too. One moment there's a touching moment how drama has affected Kaisuke and his daughter Mai, and next there is a moment where our family gets to revow Kaisuke's and Take's marriage vows. And I had to really question if all those TsumaSho defenders during that brief Twitter outrage were telling the whole truth, how TsumaSho is a story about letting go and moving on with your life after a tragedy. I'm not so certain. And I'm trying to keep an open mind while watching, as there is genuinely great drama and emotional moments here, but like I said, it keeps losing me. I wouldn't fault you for dropping it, but I'll give it a few more episodes to see if it holds up my interest. Another romance I'm torn on is tying the knot with an Amagami sister, and much like Alia last season, it feels like a generic rom-com, but I'd say there are good things buried in here, and the first episode felt like an outlier compared to the rest. Our male lead Yuru has to decide which one of these three sisters to marry, and it's mixed in with heartfelt moments, hit and miss comedy, and possibly some supernatural elements. It's not bad, and I hope it keeps its stride, but unless it steps up, it's going to end up as another generic rom-com to add to the pile. Let's jump from romance to comedy, and we have a blast from the past with the remake of Ranma. Ranma is as beautiful as it was all those years ago. A remake of an old classic, hits the same notes as the original, and it has been joy to watch this time capsule. I'm really digging these remakes, and I hope the Magic Knight Rayard remake will be just as good. Hopefully Ranma does well, so we can have another classic remade, such as Slayer's Record of Locos War, or maybe even 12 Kingdoms. I hope you're ready for brain rot, since Puniru is a kawaii slime, delivers a buttload of that. Gag humor anime that looks to be a replacement for the deer, and so far Puniru has been a bit better overall compared to the deer. Especially since Puniru was not on my radar at all until I heard good things about it. Give it a chance, since it's one of the better comedy anime along with Acro Trip. I'll become a Villainess who goes down in history is just like the name implies. Our lead gets reincarnated into her favorite game as the Villainess, since it's always good being bad, and uses her meta-knowledge about the game to set herself up to become the ultimate Villainess. Turns out Alicia is part care failure as her attempts at being Division's schemer backfire, and everyone absolutely adores her, the supposed main heroine included. A bit lackluster in animation, but a good way to dip your toes in to the Villainess subgenre. You Are Ms.Servant seems to be your typical hot girl enters a dude's life and changes his life around. But this time the hot girl is arguably more broken mess than the one she is supposed to be saving. I'd suppose it's like if your Forger from Spy Family became a maid to some high school boy. This assassin is a professional when it comes to killing, but when it comes to house chores, she is total amateur, and the comedy drops heavily from that. Featuring possibly the best little sister of the season and the fluffiest dog that has ever fluffed. You Are Ms.Servant is an easy recommend. Nothing special yet, but it could turn into a hidden gem. Next segment is what I like to call Studio Trigger adjacent anime that focuses on two anime that are eerily similar to some Studio Trigger works. Let's start with Mecha-Ude, which is a safe for work version of Kill la Kill, and very entertaining. Drift Studios' first real seasonal anime is a joy to behold, as we follow our leads in this world where sentient mechanical arms get attached to people. Our male lead Hikaru gets one of those arms, Alma, stuck in his jumper, and your typical shonen action show is born. Mecha-Ude because the original pilot of this show was crowdfunded, and it's really nice to see that Drift Studio manages to turn this into a full season. Lots of great animation, a really charming female lead, and I have high hopes for this one. Definitely check it out if you're ever enjoyed any Studio Trigger or Gainax works. Another anime that reminds me of the Studio Trigger works is the stories of girls who couldn't be magicians, and it's easy to guess which Trigger anime it reminds me of. Our main girl, Urumi, and other characters enlist into a magical academy, but they end up in a normie bin, as they can't use magic. This takes a magical turn as their homeroom teacher promises them to make all of our rejects into a full-born magicians, and the stage is set. The beautiful watercolor backgrounds and the pastel character designs are great to look at. But the story for now has been rather bare bones. But this one mention of pesäpallo obliges me to give it a recommendation. I can't help it, it's in my bones.
Vieläkö pyöritetään keinossa vai pelattaisiko jo pesäpalloa?
Jumping from magic to magical girls. And there are a couple of standouts this season. Magilumiere, Magical Girls Inc. straight up is in the running for my anime of the season. Magilumiere is a closer to a workplace size of life anime what BA Works has been doing, but with dash of maxi pixie dust. Our magical girls take on their strongest foe yet, the Japanese work environment, and try to keep up a healthy life, along with vanquishing monsters called Kai for the big money. Beautiful animation coupled with charming characters makes this a must watch. Another great magical girl anime is Acro Trip, which has our main female lead join the evil organization Fossa Magna to try and stop the magical girl menace Berry Blossom. It's actually a comedy and a great one at that. Shizuko, after joining Fossa Magna, keeps improving their evil plans so the magical girl can get stronger and gather more fans, which Shizuko is the biggest one of them all. The premise might remind you a lot of gushing over magical girls, but this is completely safe for work, which makes it better by default. I highly recommend it, and I want a plushie of these Kuma Gaijin as sap. That was a lot of anime, but I still have few shows left to talk about, so let's talk about the rest, and possibly the best. Dan is the big Shonen Jump adaptation this season, and what a great time it has been. Another piece of media made by one of Fujimoto's assistants, and this has been a ride and a half. Outside of one scene in episode 1, I have no problems with it, and I hope it stays as a one-off, just like in Undead Unluck. Animation has been fantastic, and the banter between our two leads has been great to watch. Suing for an anime of the season, and a very easy recommend. Blue Miburo just aired its first episode rather late, so I don't have much to say about it. A lot of shows with blue in the title this season. The story focuses around Shinsengumi, and like you expect, it's a historical samurai anime, much like the Elusive Samurai, except there is less gore and few 100-year gap. It's okay, but it might be an early drop if I don't get anything out of it by episode 3. Last two before I give my full review of Uzumaki, and these two are strong candidates for an anime of the season, and let's start with Nekaposhi Angler. This is going to be every dad's favorite anime, as Nekaposhi Angler is all about fishing and the futility of a mortal life in the face of certain demise. Our lead, Tsunehiro, is down his luck. He has been crypto-rug pulled and he is without money or home, and first of all, doctor told him that he has only 2 years left to live. After being hounded by the least menacing loan sharks, he bumps into Takagi and Hana, who tell him about the wonders of fishing, and little by little he begins to turn those negative attitudes about life into positive ones. Really amazing animation, and gripping first few episodes by Studio Not Original, and this is definitely in my shortlist for an anime of the season. Don't sleep on this, as this has been the most positive surprise of the season. Last one on my watch list is the Poland Saga anime, all about pondering the orb. Orb, on the movements of the earth, is a story about heliocentrism, and what great effort it took to realize the said theory and try to convince the Catholic Church that the geocentric model was wrong. The entire show is dripping with atmosphere and really engaging characters as they try to uncover the truth about the universe. Go as blind into this anime as you can. It is based on history, but the twists and turns Orb takes are very refreshing. Suing for an anime of the season and a big recommend from me. Okay, so here is the list so far, and including Uzumaki, that's 20 anime this season that I've been keeping up with. And I guess now it's time to talk about Uzumaki. Uzumaki proves two things. 1. Unlike previously thought of, it is possible to adapt a Junji Ito work. And 2. There must be another curse that befalls all Junji Ito adaptation, and that's the only reasonable explanation on what happened here. I can't believe how good the first episode was, warts and all. It reminded me a lot of some Lovecraft short stories that focus on a city or a town that slowly begins to show its true colors to an outsider, but it felt rushed. I think if they would have cut some content out, I would have preferred that with a slower build-up. The rotoscope animation was also surprisingly good and full of life, like this one cute moment with Kairi moving her eyes around. The horror aspects were unsettling, and whatever I'm about to say about the last remaining 3 episodes, those aspects are still present, and there are small moments you can still appreciate. So the second episode aired, and oh boy, this adaptation is truly cursed. The animation takes a nosedive, and the consequences of that is that it's hard to take anything seriously. The way the anime rushes past from event to event leaves me without any satisfaction or a chance I could get immersed into the experience. The scares happen, and there are still some good stuff buried here, like the entire hospital segment is unnerving and horrifying, but I wish it had the worthy production behind it. Speaking of production, One of the executive producers, Jason DeMarco, shared in a now deleted comment, and I quote, Games Radar quoting him, "It's fine. We knew this would happen. I can't talk about what went down, but we were screwed over, and the options were A. Not finish and air nothing, and call it a loss. B. Just finish and air episode 1 and leave it incomplete. Or C. Run all 4, warts and all. Out of respect for the hard work, we chose C. Link for the article is down below." And I just realized that this is why I used warts and all in the opening paragraph. That's funny. This is puzzling, because Uzumaki is only 4 episodes, and I have to wonder what went down with the production if only the first episode was in passable quality. Hopefully we get a post-mortem on the whole production, because this seems wild. As for my final rating and recommendation, I'm giving Uzumaki a 4 out of 10. I wasn't insulted by it, but the production is so bad that I can't rate it any higher, and the only reason I finished it was because it was only 4 episodes. I'd say avoid this one, but check out the first episode and see what could have been and read the manga instead. So that's all for the fall season of anime. I'd say a really strong season, even if I don't keep up with any of the big sequels. I haven't dropped anything yet, but I'd say there are some anime in the mix section that could get the cut. Nothing stood out from the rest either, but I have a lot of strong contenders for the anime of the season. Thank you for watching and see you hopefully soon.